Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. We are standing here on a gray morning outside the Imperial City sewers as my freshly created character, the Argonian named Trips on Tail, has just emerged from the Imperial City prison. This is some gameplay footage I recorded yesterday after Oblivion Remastered dropped. And it is not going to be a calm wander through the environment as many of my videos are. This is just some raw gameplay. So I will be fighting and running around and dying a couple of times. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was a game that came out in 2006. It is the previous game to the significantly more famous and successful Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls 5. Although that's not to say that Oblivion was not successful, because it was, for its time. Of course, it is part of the Elder Scrolls series, the much-loved Bethesda game series. The mainline installments are Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and then Skyrim. And of course, we've been waiting for many years for the Elder Scrolls 6 to come out. I am a massive fan of the Elder Scrolls games, and Oblivion in particular is my personal favorite. It has a wonderful combination of humor and wonder and adventure and a little bit of jank that just gives it some unique charm. Let's read this scroll. Some of the men were worried about these old ruins being haunted, but Bethala take them. This spot's going to be perfect for ambushing merchants along the road, and all under the nose of the Imperial Legion. Finally got some of those big blue stones down today. Berenice got the idea to shoot them down with her bow. Got them all here with me. I don't know what they are, but they stink of magicka. Bet they'll fetch a nice price with the Mages Guild. 2 coins and that Khajiit from Vardenfell set up their camps down in the tomb. Fine by me. Spares the rest of us the smell. 2 coins ran up today. The Khajiit's gone missing. Alright, well, Prior Me didn't give Curran me enough time to read that letter, so you'll just have to explore the ruin yourself for the rest of the story. Of course, I read the letter, I know what it is. It's, the Khajiit's gone missing, and 2 coins was saying that they could hear claws scratching against limestone. Perhaps a clue about what we might find later in this Ayleid ruin. So, I dearly love Oblivion. I have spent so many hours wandering the lush countryside of Cyrodiil, exploring its ruins, fighting ogres and imps and minotaurs, doing quests for Daedric princes, and I was overjoyed when this game surprisingly dropped yesterday. Now, it wasn't a total surprise because there have been rumors of a remastered Oblivion coming for a few years now. I think the biggest piece of evidence came a few years back during a Microsoft FTC filing. Or rather, the FTC had brought Microsoft to court for trying to acquire Activision on the basis of that creating a monopoly. And Microsoft, as part of its document disclosure during that time, revealed that they were working on was this when they... No, they had already purchased ZeniMax. This was the Activision thing, yeah. Anyway, the documents revealed that ZeniMax and Bethesda were working on a Oblivion remaster. Also, we just ascended to level 2. So, in the original game, when you leveled up, these stat bonuses were predetermined, but you could choose 3 of your attributes and gain the predetermined bonus. And that bonus was based on what skills you used during that level up. In this version of the game, they have made some mechanical changes, and one of those changes is to how leveling up works. Now you get to choose 3 attributes as normal, but you get to distribute the points yourself, rather than having them be based on what skills you leveled up during your previous level. There are a handful of changes to the game. It is not merely a fresh coat of paint and a graphical upgrade. It is really a remake, not a remaster. Or at least, it crosses over into remake territory because of the mechanical changes. They've also made changes to things like voice acting. For instance, there are a lot of new voice lines in the game, and old voice lines have been re-recorded with new voice actors. So, characters that had a certain voice in the original will have a different voice now. That's actually one of the aspects that I don't love about the remaster so far. Oh, and here we have the Khajiit. The Khajiit that got lost in the ruins. Seemingly stumbled through that secret door and was killed by something. And we might see that something right here. A terrifying zombie. Also, sorry, it's rather dark. they have changed how illumination works in this game, and it means that these ruins are much darker than they were in the original. I think I want to invest some points into magic so that I can get a light spell and illuminate my way through these ruins, even while holding a sword and a shield. But anyway, I was talking about the voices. I don't mind them adding additional voices to the radiant dialogue in the game where you're just walking down the street and people have new voices, new voice lines. I will admit there's the nostalgia factor where I miss the old voices. Also, I'm bumping up the difficulty here because the enemies are just going down really easily. But, also, as usual, during my recording, somebody turns on their washing machine, so it's madness trying to record ASMR in an apartment building. There's always somebody trying to sabotage you. But yeah, I will say I was a bit bummed out when I was talking to Argonians around the world and found that many of them have had their voices replaced by new voice actors. And the only reason that bums me out is not because they're not literally the same voice lines that I remember. As I said, there is a bit of nostalgia for that, but I don't have a serious problem with that changing. My real problem with it is that I don't find the new voice actors do an interesting job with the voices. The Argonian voices in Oblivion are so iconic. They are very reptilian and scratchy and raspy. And then you bump into one of the Argonians with the new voice actor. Also, you can see I cranked up the difficulty just by one step, and I'm getting already dying, so it's a big jump in difficulty between those two. Going from adept to expert. In the original game, they had a little slider so you could change the difficulty by micrometers. But yeah, I found that the new Argonian voices are much more boring compared to the old Argonian voices, which is too bad. But I don't mean to jump into criticism because that is really only one of my only pieces of criticism for this. I have a couple small nitpicks in addition to that, but I don't want to sound negative because I'm really enjoying my time with the game. I've only played for about 2-3 hours, and I'm not actually playing this character anymore. Or rather, I reloaded my save at the exit to the Imperial sewers and made some modifications to my character after getting a bit more experience with some of the mechanical changes that they made. So for instance, I saw that they have changed the, how do I put this? At certain skill levels in the original game of Oblivion, you would get certain perks automatically. And so it would be something like, if you were ranking up your blade ability and you got it to 50 out of 100 skill points, you would unlock a perk which was your power attacks do 5 times more damage or something like that. And all of the weapon skills had basically the same perks for the melee weapons. And after playing for a bit, I discovered that now the weapons have a variety of unique perks depending on what type of weapon they are. So for instance, swords do bleed damage over time, and blunt weapons, when you use power attacks with them, they generate a shield. So there were some interesting things like that, and so I wanted to change a few things about my character. And like as I said before, I wanted to cast the light spell, so I've ended up investing a bit more in magic, and I'm going to do a sort of spell blade, half melee fighter, half spellcaster, and with a little bit of sneak as well, I think. So, this is Trips on Tail 1.0, but Trips on Tail 2.0 is going to be what I'm adventuring with for the rest of my playthrough. They've made some other cool changes, like you get to pick your sub-race at the beginning of the game, which makes, just has a few small changes to your stats. So, overall, I am very pleased. There's, obviously some funny stuff, some weird stuff, but that was always going to be the case because Oblivion is a funny little game. It's weird and awkward and has finicky little bits, like the face design, for instance. The faces in Oblivion could be pretty ugly or silly looking. And in the remake, I also think the faces are pretty ugly, in general, or very weird looking. Of course, they're designed in Unreal Engine 5 now, and so they are, in some sense, much more detailed and good looking, but, they just look very strange. But that's classic Oblivion, that's not a problem. I do miss the old Argonian faces. As an Argonian lover, I really liked the Argonian design in Oblivion, how their faces looked, and their voices. In the remaster, the Argonians' faces are a little, I don't know, they look a little like they're using the Khajiit bone structure. They look like they have muzzles, rather than having the sort of smooth face of a lizard. In the character creation, I did the best I could to kind of make my character look gaunt and angular, give it more of that dinosaur-like appearance. I don't think that they look terrible by any means, but they're just not perfect in my estimation, because I was attached to that old design, and it would have been fun to see that old design put into UE5 rather than a sort of redesign. But that's okay, you know, it's a remaster and things change, so that's just part of it. Yeah, I definitely want a light spell because it gets very dark in here. I mean, the ruins and caves and stuff in the old game were dark as well, don't get me wrong, but the more realistic illumination that they use here, I've just found so far, creates a lot of very deep shadows. Anyway, I keep dying here. Just getting used to the higher difficulty. So, this is Vilverin, by the way. It is an Ayleid ruin. And the Ayleids were an empire of elves from long ago who kept humans as slaves. And there was eventually a great war of rebellion. The human slaves overthrew the Ayleids, guided by Saint Alessia. And these Ayleid ruins are the remnants of that old empire. And they are a very common dungeon type in Oblivion. As you explore Cyrodiil, you will encounter many of these Ayleid ruins. And at the end of Vilverin, we will find a unique artifact. And it starts a quest. So, I'm going to go get that artifact and turn it in to the quest giver and start that quest. And then I'm going to go do the first step of the main quest. So, I won't talk about the plot in case you haven't played Oblivion before and don't want any spoilers. It's all set up in the intro to the game, so it wouldn't be very major spoilers anyways, but I won't talk about the main plot line because I know there might be many people right now who are encountering Oblivion for the first time. So I don't want to give anything away. But I will be going to Wayne Priory, which is the first objective of the main quest, and talking to a character there, so when I get to Wayne Priory, if you're worried about spoilers, you can just look away from the screen or not read the dialogue, and it shouldn't be an issue, because I won't talk about it directly. But yeah, skeletons in Oblivion, I remember, were very difficult enemies. In Skyrim, they were like, made of balsa wood, but in Oblivion, if you found like a skeleton champion or whatever, they were tough enemies. And, one other change I've noticed so far, I've been obviously noting any changes I discover from the various versions. Here we've got some giant swinging axe traps. And they are guarding the artifact that I was talking about. Right there, the Ayleid statue. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So one of the changes that I've noticed is in the design of the zombies. Their character model is different in a very significant way. And it's funny because I was talking to my brother about this before the game came out. Before the remaster came out. And I said, I wonder what the zombies are gonna look like, because they were horrifying in the original. They were really quite frightening to look at, and in particular, how do I put this delicately? The space below their torso was quite destroyed in a disturbing way. So I was curious how they would look in the remaster. Well, and here we're fighting a necromancer named Jalbert. I discovered the answer to that when I fought the zombies here in Vilverin. They have put all of the zombies in shorts. They all now wear shorts, which I thought was hilarious and very silly. The zombies don't look very scary to me anymore because they're just walking around in their, in their cargo shorts. But it certainly makes them a little less disturbing to look at, I guess. Alright, we have slain Jalbert, the necromancer. And we can go investigate his little sanctuary here. Yeah, so the game is mostly the same as the original. Oh, here we have a little bit of lore. Aluk, my friend, I apologize that I have not written before now, and pray that you worry not. How could you have known that your patrol would stumble across my outing at the cemetery? There was no denying my deed. A sack full of limbs and grave soil still fresh on my boots. With your men standing by, what choice was there but pursuit, lest they suspect your own true nature? Truly, I am glad it was you to expose me, and not another whose spellfire may not have missed my escape so widely. My new haven provides safety and bodies to work on, whether those long dead or hapless bandits. I will be content here for some time, though I dare not yet to say where. Care for Keisui, and know that when the time comes, I shall return to live again in our beloved Daggerfall. So just a bit of lore from about Mr. Jalbert there. That's something that I liked about Oblivion, that I've always liked about Oblivion, is their dungeons have little, just tiny little things that make them unique. Certainly not all of them. There are many caves and forts and stuff in Oblivion that feel largely copy-pasted. But at the same time, I found that there was usually one little unique thing in a lot of the dungeons. Whether it was a unique sort of series of traps or gates or weird assets that you didn't see in other places, or little fragments of lore like Jalbert the necromancer in there. But yeah, that was just there's not too many dungeon types in Oblivion, but I felt that they made them, have one or two little unique things. By the way, I'm just standing here looking at the torch. It casts light on the mountains in the distance. If you see that when I turn fast, it leaves a sort of red illumination or a purpley illumination on the mountains in the distance. So that's sort of a weird graphical bug, or a weird graphical interaction, I guess, with in Unreal Engine 5. It's kind of funny. But yeah, the game looks gorgeous. It is one of those things where, you sort of wish that the original design aesthetic could remain a little more intact. Like, you remember Cyrodiil, or I remember Cyrodiil being so lush and green. It was this almost painted world of bright colors. And now it's much more realistic, and it's, of course, it's beautiful, but it, with the lighting and stuff, the more detailed trees and all this stuff filling in the world, it has a much more kind of brown look to it. Less vibrant, less green. That's not a travesty, but it doesn't quite evoke the total spirit of what Cyrodiil was in the original game. You can sprint in this game, that's a new addition. And the sprint animation is kind of fun because your character is just absolutely booking it. Full on, bent over, like trying to win the 100-meter dash. I imagine that when you get your speed to 100 points, your character, when you sprint, must absolutely zoom. Because in the original game, you could get really fast, even without sprinting, so... Oh yeah, look off in the distance there. Well, I guess I'm turning away. You can rewind. Up on the mountaintop, you can see a wizard's tower. That is Frostcrag Spire, one of the DLCs they released for the game. Our athletics mastery increased. This is the sort of perk system I was talking about, where when you level up your skills enough, you get perks. So we just unlocked the ability that when we are running, our stamina no longer has a regeneration penalty. And running is not sprinting. It just means moving at full speed without engaging sprint. So this is the Imperial City, and it is gorgeous. It looks especially nice with the dynamic lighting that they have going in the game. All of the walls and tall buildings and towers and stuff just create very interesting shadows. It makes the city much more shadowy than it was in the original, which is kind of interesting. There's the arena. And here we have a couple of people training for the arena. In this very hard chest, you can find the bands of Quang Lao, which provide you with a stamina boost, or not a stamina boost, sorry. I was getting distracted because this is one of the Argonians. That's the first Argonian I spoke to in the game, and his voice was so different and less cool than the Oblivion Argonian voices, so I got a little distracted, but yeah, the Bands of Quang Lao give you a significant bonus to your unarmed skill. By my recollection, unarmed is not really a viable path in Oblivion. If you are trying to make an unarmed build, there's just, you kind of run into a wall with how much damage you can do. That's just my memory. I could be wrong about that. It could be that if you, line up your buffs in a certain way, it could be very effective, but I remember my brother really liked playing monk-style characters. And he was always frustrated in Oblivion that he felt that his unarmed character couldn't compete with a character who used weapons or spells or whatever. So I'm not sure if that is different in this game. Also, I'm just wandering around the city because I'm looking for a certain house. So that I can start the quest associated with that artifact I collected. Here we go. Umbacano Manor. This was one of my favorite quests growing up playing this game. You meet this guy named Umbacano, and he is a collector of Iliad antiquities. And he asks you to find the complete set of these statues that, the first one of which we found in Vilverin. But as the quest progresses, it gets a little more interesting than just, finding all of the statues. Here's another Argonian. They all just look like, T-Rexes or something. With that big muzzle coming off of their faces. So, Oblivion, oh man, this is a monstrous face. That's disturbing to look at. This is kind of what Oblivion is known for, though. In part what it's known for is its quirkiness, its weirdness. Obviously, at the time that it came out, there wasn't as much focus on that type of stuff because it was much more impressive when it came out. But, you could always make the characters look really freakish. And that kind of quirkiness of Oblivion, I think, provides much of its charm. The interactions between NPCs where they just have random conversations like, "Hello, how are you? Have you heard of the High Elves? I saw a mud crab today. Nasty creatures. I don't want to talk to you anymore." And then they just walk apart. That, silliness is part of Oblivion's charm. And already in the day since this came out, I am seeing tons of memes and little joke videos online. Having fun with the goofiness of... Also, I was getting a little worried here because Umbacano was supposed to put the first statue out on like the table or something, but he didn't do that, so I got worried that the quest was breaking. I don't think it would have broken the quest, it just would have meant that that statue was inaccessible to me. That's why I pickpocketed him. I was curious if it was in his inventory. But, yeah, there's lots of videos online showing the funny interactions that we all remember from Oblivion, but in this remastered engine. Man, this woman looks monstrous. I'm renting a room here so that I can level up. You have to sleep in a bed to level up. Also, I'm actually really sick right now. I wanted to get the video out yesterday, but I was really sick yesterday, and between work and just time and energy, I didn't manage to get it out, but I hope that my sickness is not coming through in my voice in an unpleasant way or something like that. Also, it costs 4 points to upgrade your luck. 4 points to upgrade your luck. Whereas everything else in the game just costs 1 point. And that reflects the fact that in the original leveling scheme, you could never get a bonus to your luck. You could get bonuses to all your other attributes, so that when you leveled up, you could add more stat points to them. But your luck could only ever go up one at a time. And so I guess with how they've changed the leveling, they wanted to preserve that sense of luck being harder to increase, so they made it cost more. So the Imperial City, we have, we got the quest that I was looking for here, so now we're gonna go to the first main quest, which is really just go and talk to an NPC. But first, we are going to stop by the stables here. Oh, and I just had to stop and look at the bridge because this is just gorgeous. Also, I'm running on a crappy Xbox, so obviously the graphics and the frame rate and stuff here are not particularly impressive compared to what you would see on a good PC, but even so, it's still beautiful. Here we are at a very famous aspect of Oblivion, which is the Horse Armor DLC. Horse Armor. If you were around in 2006 and conscious of the video game scene, you might remember Horse Armor as a sort of harbinger of the apocalypse. It was I think $5 DLC that just gave you this armor for your horse. And you could get steel armor or elven armor. And that was the whole DLC. And it was dragged at the time for being a very goofy money grab. sort of semi-jokingly, it has been seen as the beginning of the monetization monstrosity that gaming would become. And obviously now, today, we live in the world of, battle passes and loot boxes and Fortnite microtransaction, buy the new Katy Perry skin or whatever. And Call of Duty, buy your new octopus gun that shoots ink instead of bullets, and it costs $12.99 and you get an emblem with it or whatever. So horse armor was seen as a cheap, effortless money grab, and it's kind of an infamous moment of gaming history. So here we have it rendered in beautiful Unreal Engine 5 graphical fidelity. The damned horse armor itself. So of course I'm not going to fast travel, because what's the point of skipping past all of the gorgeous environments that I, got this game to look at. So we are going to hit the road and find our way to the town of Coral, which is off to the east, so we're going to start heading in that direction. And should find some road signs soon enough that will guide us to Coral. Oh, and also obviously we have an objective marker on the compass, so it's not like we can ever really get lost. But Oblivion did have some very good DLCs as well. It was not just horse armor. Oblivion actually has one of the best DLCs ever released, in my opinion, which is the Shivering Isles. It is a DLC where you enter the Daedric plane of Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness. And it is a wonderful, wonderful DLC. It changes the tone and the environment of Oblivion so sharply, but, in a very high quality, very interesting way. And it is one of the best DLCs I've ever played to this day. It's up there with some of my other favorite DLCs, like Echoes of the Eye from Outer Wilds, and Blood and Wine from The Witcher 3. Oblivion had kind of two kinds of DLC. It had the, horse armor is a particularly low point, but it had a series of, man, that's beautiful, the Imperial City, silhouetted in the misty day. It had a collection of, house DLCs where you could get a safe haven for your character, and they were all themed differently. So for instance, you could get a castle, or you could get a pirate's cove, or you could get a sort of vampiric evil murderer's sanctuary, or you could get a mage tower. So there was that collection of DLC. And then you had the actual, major DLC releases, which included Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine, which was a DLC about the Divine Crusader Pelinel Whitestrake and his unfinished battle with an old Ayleid warrior. Here we are at Wayne Priory. So if you're concerned about spoilers, you can tune out for a little bit of looking at the screen. Again, it's very small spoilers. It's just related to the basic premise of the game, which you learn within the tutorial section of the beginning. But feel free to look away if you want. I'm just wandering over here to Coral. I couldn't help but look at the city first. Or the town, rather. Looks nice. We're going to go to Wayne Priory and talk to the NPC inside and progress the main quest. And then we're going to go into Coral and join the Fighters Guild. Gotta start, getting a paycheck, right? So, this remake it comes at kind of an awkward time, I will say. I don't know if any of you have heard of SkyOblivion, but it is a fan project remake of Oblivion. And they have come very, very far, and I think are planning on releasing soonish. It's a very impressive project. So I do feel a little bad that Oblivion Remastered might steal their thunder a little bit. Now, to be honest, I think SkyOblivion might end up being the better experience. I don't know. It certainly looks very impressive and clearly is created with a lot of love and passion, so I don't think it's clear which one is going to be the superior experience, but I think there's a good chance that SkyOblivion will be maybe a little better than this Oblivion Remastered. But I don't know, obviously. But I did just want to call that out, that SkyOblivion exists, because it's a very impressive project, and they deserve a lot of recognition when the game finally releases. As with many fan projects, it has been stuck in that kind of forever dead zone of like, oh, we're working on it, and I understand why it takes so long, because it's a fan project, and so, you're asking for a lot of volunteer work and stuff like that, so it's only natural that it would take a long time to make, but you do run the risk of, there's been a lot of projects, a lot of famous online projects that sort of wither away. They take forever to complete, and then maybe they never even actually finish. They just die on the vine. Or by the time they do come out, they're much less impressive than people had hoped for, and blah blah blah. So, I don't know what the fate of SkyOblivion will be. I certainly hope that it's as impressive as it looks, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I think they deserve a shout out, even as Oblivion Remastered is taking the spotlight at the moment. So we're getting a couple gifts from the Priory, some assistance from the residents here, and we can go on our way now. So the spoilers for the main quest are over. At this point, you can feel free to return your gaze to what's happening if you didn't want to see anything at all about the main quest. What race do you like to play in the Elder Scrolls games? For me, I've pretty much only ever played Argonians and Imperials. I remember one playthrough of Oblivion. I did a red guard because one of the DLC bastions that you can get, this statue looks gorgeous in the remaster. Holy cow. Look at that. I love the lichen growing on the stone. One of the DLC houses you can get is a castle, and the lore of the castle is that it's connected to an old order of knights from Hammerfell. So I played a red guard one time and roleplayed as like an old remnant of that knightly order coming to claim the castle or something. But in pretty much every Elder Scrolls game, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, I haven't played Daggerfall or Arena. I play as an Argonian or an Imperial. I love Argonians. And then, if I want to play as a human type character, I don't mess around with, Bretons or whatever. I just go for the Imperial. I like their charisma bonuses, so. I also like the role-playing of being kind of from the heart of the Empire. Oh, and I sold all the clothes off my back. We can admire my gorgeous lizard form. Just, you may not like it, but this is what the peak male physique looks like. Anyway, I'll cover my shame and put my armor back on, so I'm not shocking the townsfolk with my nude scales. So here we have the Mages Guild, and here is the Fighters Guild. So if we step inside, we are greeted by Modrin Orain, and he is his face looks so different. He is a major character in the Fighters Guild questline. He's a cool character. And he tells us that we can go upstairs to the head of the Fighters Guild in the area and get ourselves entered into the guild. So Valena Daunton just staring off into a corner. Oh man, these faces are they just look they look very strange. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm playing, if I were playing in some new RPG, maybe they'd look a little less weird. There might just be part of it is the fact that it's the It's the fact that I know I'm playing in Oblivion, and they look like that, you know. It's just, it's goofy. But yeah, the faces in this are a little strange. I have seen some character creation screenshots online of people making monstrosities in the character creation, so it's good to know that just like the original, we can create horrifying things in the character creator of Oblivion Remastered. So, Coral is a nice town, by the way. They have the Great Oak here, which is this big tree. Wonder what my favorite town in Oblivion is. If I had to pick one in which to live, it wouldn't be Skingrad, it wouldn't be Breville. Breville is like slums. Skingrad is a little too rich and I don't know, just a little too bougie. Leowin is kind of nice. Anvil. Oh, no, sorry, not Leowin. I don't like Leowin, actually. Anvil is the one I was thinking of that's pretty gorgeous. It's on the coast. I like Cheydinhal. It has a beautiful sort of trail where you can walk over some bridges and stuff. There's a little river or a little brook running through the town. It's very pretty. Bruma is a lovely town. I don't think I would want to live there because it's just snowy and cold all the time, but it is very charming. You know, once you accept that it's just a cold place. I don't know, I think if I had to pick, I'd probably go with Leowin. Sorry, not Leowin, Anvil. I mean Anvil. I don't know why I'm confusing those two. Oh, you know what? No, it would be Kvatch. I'm a Kvatch guy. That's my favorite town. And if you've played Oblivion, I'm sure you agree. Well, anyway, I have run out of the footage that I filmed, so I am going to say goodbye to you now, my friends. If you are checking out Oblivion Remastered, I hope that you're enjoying it as much as I am. And if you're not, then feel free to explore it with me on this channel, because I can guarantee that I will be coming back to do a more relaxing wander style of video. Maybe we can explore some towns, or maybe we can even compare some places from the original game and the new one. Or, you know, I have some ideas. I have some ideas that might be kind of fun, so I'm sure this is, well, I guarantee this is not the last time that you will see Oblivion Remastered on this channel. Until next time, my friends, I hope that your adventuring is profitable, and that you do not succumb to the many dangers of Cyrodiil. Necromancers, bandits, zombies, goblins, whatever they might be. Stay safe out there. I wish you good fortune, and may the 9 divines watch over you. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.